What's cooking, New Ulm? I'm Rebecca Fliszar, the dietitian with the Heart's Beat Back Heart of New Ulm project, working to reduce and eventually eliminate heart attacks in the 56073 zip code. All right, so tonight we're going to use couscous, something that we've become fairly familiar with over the past. Now we're going to change this up a little bit. A typical pilaf, we would use rice. Rice is going to be a little bit higher in carbohydrates and a little bit lower in nutrients than that which we'd find in our couscous. So this is going to be a cauliflower couscous pilaf. I'm going to change things up just a bit. So what we need to do to get started is we're going to be using fresh cauliflower. We're also going to be using green onions or scallions, our couscous, a little bit of black pepper, and you can add in other seasonings and herbs as well. This recipe will call for things like orange juice and some currants to add a little bit of that sweetness to it, but I'm going to leave that up to you. We're going to make the basic recipe and you can take it from there. So what we want to do is get our foods all prepped to go before we go back to the stove. So we're just going to go ahead and trim up our green onions here, cut off those ends, and then we want to trim them up. We need about 1/4 to 1/2 cup. The best way to watch green onions is where they bend. That's about where you want to stop cutting. So we made that distinction. We can cut up quite a bit yet, and we're definitely going to get plenty of green onions here. Now, as long as they're fresh, you can cut up quite a bit into the stems and still have plenty of good flavor. So try not to waste a lot of your vegetables. One of the reasons that we find that produce can be considered expensive is if we don't properly use that or make full use of the vegetable, we have a lot of waste. But you know, right here, just in this 88-cent bunch, we're going to have some great flavor, and we don't have a lot of leftover. So we're going to set that aside. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and cut into our cauliflower. You want to make sure you have your vegetables nice and cleaned off. Get them rinsed off in the sink. You really don't need to use any of the special washes or anything. Just clean them off, and they will be boiled, so these aren't quite as sensitive as some others that we may be using. I'm going to cut these down a little bit so we can access all of the florets. And I like cauliflower. We want to use as much as we can, against avoiding the waste. Cut those down, and then we just have our core left. We can set that aside. We want to dice these up just a little bit further. We don't want any of the big chunks present. If you want to take some of the core, when you find those pieces, go ahead and take that out. Cut them all the way down. Get them to usable portions. Move those off of our cutting board. Don't want to mix those in. This is also waste. You can see we have quite a bit of cauliflower just out of that one head. Again, a very inexpensive purchase, and we're going to have a high yield out of cauliflower. Now sometimes we go and we buy the frozen cauliflower because we don't know how easy it is to use regular cauliflower. But you can see I've accessed the entire head in just a few seconds. So do give it a try. Have a little bit more nutrients, get a better flavor just by using our fresh. At this time of the year, they're about the same price, so don't hesitate to pick these up off the shelf. All right, so once we have this all diced up, we're going to go ahead and go back to the stove. With it, we'll be bringing our cauliflower, our couscous, some water, and our green onions. All right, and away we go. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get this on to a medium heat. We're going to add just a little bit of olive oil to get things rolling. Maybe 1 to 2 tablespoons, just to coat the bottom of our pan here. All right, once that heats up, we want to get that to spread around. It's going to thin out. Something I'm asked quite often is if it's a good idea to use olive oil when cooking. Now, olive oil does have a lower burning point than other oils, but it's quite hot. And if you do watch your cooking, it's going to be just as well to use the olive oil. It has a few more antioxidants than many of our other oils, and it has great flavor. So feel free to continue to use that. We're going to go ahead and add the cauliflower into the pan. The key with the cauliflower is to keep it moving. We don't want it sitting still or it will burn fairly easily. We're going to keep that moving right off the bat. As I mentioned, you can use things like orange juice in this. A quarter cup of orange juice is going to add a definite flavor. Also, this recipe calls for some low sodium chicken broth in place of the water. I did want to keep this as low sodium as possible, so I'm going to go ahead and stay with the water. It will decrease the flavor, but we're still going to get great nutrients in a very, very low sodium food. So an easy modification that's going to improve our overall heart health. You can see that these are browning already. It's not going to take us long, about 3 minutes. We want to go ahead and brown out the cauliflower, just to soften it up a bit. We can go ahead and add in our pepper for a little bit of flavor. And again, pepper doesn't contain anything that's harmful to us, so use that as much as you'd like, based on your preference. We have a very distinct flavor and smell from the cauliflower. As a reminder, all of our recipes are found at heartsbeatback.org under our FoodWorks tab. Just click on recipes. If you'd like to rewatch this show, all the shows are available online as well. Our cooking shows are now being posted to YouTube, so you can access them quickly and easily from wherever you are. You can also stay up to date with all of the new Heart of New Ulm programming and new Community Health Challenge that will be coming up soon. So always visit our website at heartsbeatback.org. We definitely want your feedback, suggestions, and ideas, so you can follow us and comment to us on Facebook or Twitter. Or you can always call us as well. Our phone number is 217-5945. Okay, so these have browned up quite a bit. I want to turn down this heat just a bit. I'm going to add in my water. And that's going to boil right off the bat here. Add in my green onions and my couscous. And we're just going to keep this moving here. Now, couscous doesn't need to be drained or rinsed. It's going to absorb the water that's in the pan. And add a carbohydrate base to this with a very great flavor. You can buy couscous already pre-flavored with roasted garlic or Mediterranean flavoring. This is going to be a plain couscous in this recipe, but feel free to change that up. And that's it. This one was easy enough. So you can see that we have a complete dish, lots of different flavors. You can add any vegetables into this you want, but an easy way to utilize that cauliflower and create a unique dish. We'll be back with our next recipe. All right, welcome back for our second recipe. You know, everybody needs a great dessert, and yet we're looking for those heart-healthy options. Well, I'm going to show you a great option tonight. This is about as good as they come. I love this dessert. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a frozen raspberry dessert. It tastes like a raspberry ice cream. It's going to have a nice graham cracker crust to it, and it's going to really fill you up, meet that sweet flavor you're looking for, and we're still going to get one of our fruit servings in there. So this is an easy one to do. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to start with our crust. To make our own crust, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add about 30 to 35 vanilla wafers into our pan. Now you can use this in a plastic bag as well. We're going to just break those up. We're going to crush them in and layer down the bottom of this dessert pan. Okay, crush them up. Want to get them fairly fine. It's not critical if you have some larger chunks in there. But a quick crushing here, a good strong spoon will take care of that for you. You know, vanilla wafers are always nice to have around the house too. They're a good snack. Want to just watch our portion size, because even those can get up a little bit higher in our fat and our sugars. But again, an easy way to satisfy your sweet tooth. We'll keep crushing here as we go. Now on top of this, something we don't see often here on the cooking show, but we are going to use 1 teaspoon of butter. Regular butter does contain saturated fat, but because we're only using the 1 teaspoon, you're going to see that's easily distributed out between so many portions that it's still going to fall within our heart healthy guidelines. So we don't need to completely eliminate butter from our diet. We just want to watch the portion size. Portion size kind of dictates everything that we do with our diet. Okay, I think that'll be good enough for tonight. Let's spread that out. Now we're going to add the pat of butter in. We're also going to add a little bit of confectioner's sugar. And about 1/4 cup. We're going to add a little bit of regular sugar. We're going to add in about 2 teaspoons of milk, which I have here. This is what's going to bind it all together. And a little bit of canola oil. So the majority of our calories in this recipe are coming just from our crust. All right, we're going to take our spoon and we're going to mix these all together and make a nice, juicy, delicious crust. So not hard to make our own crust. Definitely a cost saver, and it's still lower in fat because we did use, instead of all butter, we used some canola oil. Definitely cut down on our saturated fat amounts than had we purchased a pre-made crust. Okay, so now we want to layer the bottom of the pan with our crust. Try to get it as even as possible. Remember, that's just kind of the garnishing on the top here. This is the sweetness, so we want to make sure we get that spread around. We don't want it too thick on any of our portions. That will change out the calorie distribution on each serving size as well. Okay, we can go ahead and set this aside. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to use 3 cups of raspberries. Now I use the frozen, and they're thawed, so they're going to be nice and soft. And take this bag, add it right into our bowl here, and use our spoon again. Start crushing those up. You can add these into a food processor as well, but because they're thawed, they do break down so incredibly easy. Mix those up a little bit. All right, that pretty well taken care of. You can run these through a sieve to pull out the seeds, or you can leave them in there. They're going to add a different texture, a little more flavor. Most certainly is not going to hurt you. Add in our lemon juice. Going to neutralize the flavor a bit. Okay. Okay, the next step, we're going to go ahead and use 2 egg whites. So we need to break off take out the egg yolks. Take those out of there. We'll use this as a mixing bowl. And see, we're going to just go ahead and drop our whites. Shift our yolk. There it goes. Toss that in the trash. Do it one more time. Remember, when we use just the whites, we're taking out all the cholesterol. It's a very low calorie, high protein food. So getting rid of that yolk makes all the difference in the world on eggs. So go ahead and do that as often as possible. You can mix that up. Now in this, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add some more sugar and a little bit of cream of tartar. The cream of tartar is what's going to give it its consistency and replace, I'm going to use about 1/2 cup of sugar here. Okay, so then we're going to add in just a 1/2 teaspoon of our cream of tartar. Here we go. And we're going to mix this pretty heavily. So what we want to do is make sure that it becomes almost foamy. We're going to work on this for a little while. This is what's going to help stand up the souffle. It's a basic souffle. So you can see that we're starting to see a little bit of foaming, and that's what we're looking for. Without the egg yolks, we do not have a good binder. The cream of tartar is going to do some of that for us, but there's not going to be any lift in this. So making sure it gets nice and fluffy and has a little air in there is essential to making sure this works. Okay. Once that's done then, we're going to go ahead and add it into our raspberry mix. And we're going to mix these together. This is making a nice kind of pudding texture. Really going to fill that in well. Now what we're going to do, we're going to take our crust, break that down just a bit more, make sure we got enough air in there, make sure it's nice and foamy, and we're going to pour this right over the top. All right. Now the trick to this recipe is it was easy to make and very quick, but this needs to freeze now for about 6 hours. You're going to have a nice, almost a raspberry ice cream. It's going to have great flavor. You're going to have that graham cracker crust. You're going to be in for quite a treat. You know, you take some of the other recipes that we've put together throughout the week, and you're going to find that this is a perfect dessert. We're going to get 2 fruit servings in this, and you're going to have great flavor, avoiding some of other high-fat foods, high sugary foods, and you're going to feel good about the foods that you're eating. And that's it. That's this week's episode of What's Cooking, New Ulm. I'm Rebecca Fliszar. I'll see you next week.